Hey everybody, it's Joran with Illustrious here live on StreamYard. I am streaming to Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. If you are watching on any of those channels, please leave me a comment. I want to know that you're tuning in. It's Friday and it's May 5th, and I am here in beautiful Asheville, North Carolina, wearing my new Illustrious t-shirt, which is exciting for me. Got a whole box of them here. If you want to let me know what size you wear, we can hook you up. Wanted to hop on today, this week. Haven't done a live stream in a while. It's been a few weeks, and talk a little bit about founder syndrome. Just have had a lot of thoughts bubbling up about it recently, so I wanted to get on and riff a little bit. I think because I recently worked with a client who has a founder who is trying to get out of their own way, who has assembled this crack team, this executive leadership team, who's really skilled, and is in the process of stepping back and letting that executive team lead, and that can be difficult. Hi to whoever's watching. Go ahead and leave a comment if you're tuning in, and let me know that you can see and hear everything okay. I'm streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. But yeah, this founder that I've been working with recently has, I think, realized the limitations of trying to lead everything themselves. And when decisions and strategy and vision all end with the founder, that's where bottleneck can happen. And what's really great about the team that this person has surrounded themselves with is that they're all skilled and have been in positions before where they've seen some of this stuff not go as it should have. In fact, some of them even verbally said, this is great that we're doing this work, because I've worked with CEOs before who couldn't do this work, right? Couldn't own up to or face the fact that this was necessary and that it was challenging. And so I think that's step one, right? Realizing that this is work, and that it's an issue that we all deal with as people. We're all trying to make the best decisions with the information we have. But founders, it can be hard for them to let go, and I think that's the issue, right? Trusting other people to lead is hard. Trusting other people to do things that maybe are close to the way you would do them is hard. Having faith without maybe the evidence, right? That something has been demonstrated or modeled for you, that things will go in the right direction. It's hard to take that first step out and believe that the net will appear, right? And I think the best you can do is surround yourself with those people who are skilled and who are better at these things than you are. That's the name of the game. I think of, when I think of founder syndrome, I think of spiritual communities for some reason. They have, religious communities have a system in place for when a leader steps down or retires, or, it takes a sabbatical or whatever, they go away. You don't see them, right? And I think the beauty in that and the effectiveness in that is that when you enter that space, that sacred space, that person who you went to kind of translate the vision, right? That person who you went to for support or guidance or coaching, that person who you associated with the brand and the experience, all of that, they're gone now, right? And you are forced to look elsewhere for that kind of leadership. And there's an effectiveness in that in spiritual communities, or I should say religious communities, in transferring esteem and authority and all of it from the from spiritual leadership to administration, right, and on down. You've got to put your faith and your trust in the new leader, and you can't do that when the old leader is still sitting in the front row, and everybody's coming to them with their questions, and or when the old leader walks in the room and there's a, you can see just feel the energetic kind of wave, the ripple that happens through the room, and all the heads turn, and new leaders can't lead in that environment. And so it is really important in these religious and spiritual communities I'm describing now, that those founders or those leaders step down and physically step away. And I think in the business environment, there's something that is directly translatable in that, and that those leaders need to trust that when they leave the room, the team will look to find that kind of support and strategy and vision and guidance, and accountability, right? And if it's not there, that they will create it, right? And that's why it's so important for founders and CEOs to create really skilled teams and continue to skill up their teams so that they can continue to step away and really have clear definition around what I need to see is X or Y in order for me to take another step back. Okay, now I've seen that. Now what I need to see is Y and Z in order for me to take another step back, and really hold themselves accountable to that process. So important. And the roles that the people in the organizations are playing are so important as well. I did work with a client recently where I drew a bunch of pictures on the wall of musical instruments, a microphone, a guitar, a drum set, a bass guitar, saxophone, a turntable, you name it. And asked this leadership team, what are the instruments in the band that you are playing in the group, and had everybody choose. And then we had a little conversation, about what those things are, what those instruments represent. For example, you'd think of the lead singer as the da-da-da, they want to be in the spotlight all the time. They want to, hear themselves talk, and they love being on stage. They love telling stories, holding court. And, but when you get into things like the keyboard, what does that represent? Are you going the more classical, like grand piano route? Do you see yourself as the advocate for traditionalism and conservatism in the organization, because you're thinking it's like it's Bach or Beethoven? Or are you thinking of a synthesizer and your ability to emulate and modulate sounds that are new, right? Or to recreate or mimic the sounds of the other instruments with a synthesizer. There's a couple different ways you can think about that instrument being played. And when it comes to the metaphor of how you function in the business, that can open up a really rich discussion. Another really rich discussion is the relationship between the bass player and the drummer. We think of the drummer as being the heartbeat of providing the framework and the template and the systems and the rhythm and the routine and the cadence for the group to follow. So that might be somebody who's more in systems or operations. But when we think about the bass player, we typically think about them playing a real background role and not really sharing the spotlight too much. But what's important to know about the bass player is that lead singer role in the organization. They're going to listen to the drummer. Everybody's listening to the drummer to keep up with the tempo, and that's all fine. But the lead singer in a band listens to the bass player in order to stay on pitch. They're not listening to the guitar because the guitar can go out of tune. They're not listening to the keyboard because the keyboard can be playing all kinds of intervals and thirds and fifths and different notes that they, could be distracted by. But the bass guitar is always holding down that bottom end, that root note, that the singer can always lock into and know that they're singing in pitch. So the relationship between the drummer and the singer and the bass player is circuitous, right? And when you think about that way, it really can be a rich discussion about who am I looking to in the business to get my cues from, or who am I following, as far as the vision or the strategy, within the organization. Who am I kind of I always have an ear out for them, and I'm always kind of relying on them, and they're keeping me accountable to themselves because they're doing their thing, right? And so the discussion around what instrument you're playing in the band can be a really rich and important one. And I remember, and I told a story about not even just what instrument are you playing, but then what notes are you playing? There's a story that Chick Corea tells about being in Miles Davis's band, and he was a young kid at the time and very nervous, and on stage at a festival, I don't remember which one, but they were playing, and of course, Miles's band is practiced and tight and skilled up and able to provide that foundation for Miles to go out and do his thing and be in the spotlight as the instrumentalist and visionary that he was. And so Chick Corea is nervous already because he's in this Miles Davis band. But then what happened on stage at this festival was that Chick played a wrong note. And it was glaringly obvious in the moment that Chick had played a wrong note in that millisecond, right, between the chord or the note that Chick had gone to play on the piano, and then what came out. It was clear, to everyone in the band anyway, with a trained ear, that Chick had played the wrong note in combination with the other notes, and created dissonance. Well, the beautiful story about the part of this story is that what Miles did in that moment, a millisecond after Chick plays a wrong note, Miles then changes up and plays a different note, a note that makes the incorrect note that Chick played correct. Now, if you know anything about music or chords or composition, right, you can know that these things are just their triads that move around, right? These chords are made of notes that operate in relationship to one another. So Miles chose to add another note that then made Chick's note make sense and corrected Chick's mistake for him in a matter of a millisecond, right? And Chick tells that story about how relieved he was in that moment that Miles has kind of saved him, right? And also in the same breath, we can talk about the brilliance, the literacy, the competency of Miles Davis. I mean, we all know he's a visionary and a genius for shifting jazz as a movement multiple times over the course of his career with his music. But we don't talk about his ability in the moment to correct things like that. So I pose the question to these teams, right? What notes are you playing in the day-to-day of the business? And what notes can you potentially play to make other team members' potentially incorrect notes correct? How can you correct or right or stabilize the business by adding the right note to the song? And I think that's important to consider and contemplate, especially if we're so hard on ourselves, on teams and on a team that's skilling up and getting better. And if you have a hard time thinking about failure as learning, right? And if you tend to kind of beat yourself up when you make mistakes, think about what the notes you're adding to the composition are. And if you're one of those other team members, think about what notes you can add to make that song pleasant, right? I think it's on us as people in organizations to lift each other up as we climb. And I think that's a really good example of it, adding those kind of grace notes to the system that make it easier for everyone, that can turn something that's full of tension or uncertainty into something that's really beautiful just by adding one note. So if you're one of those leaders, I really encourage you to think about today in the organizations you're in. What is the one note you could add to your team? What is the one thing you could do to turn that tension and uncertainty into something that really is beautiful? And to the founders, who are leading these bands and leading these organizations, how do you not only surround yourself with a crack team of really skilled leaders, musicians in the metaphor, how do you surround yourself and put together this really great band, but then also skilling them up, through practice and accountability? How are you making them better so that you can step away and step out of the spotlight and really let them lead, so that you can not get bottlenecked and not slow down the speed of business by having to touch everything and be involved in everything. And I think that next level is, once they're skilled up, then how are they getting better at playing, right? How are they getting better at listening to one another? Now, all of music is listening. All we have to do is hear the notes that the other person is playing and respond in kind. So how do we get better in business at listening to our fellow band members play, and responding to what we're hearing? So that's what I wanted to talk about today, was founder syndrome and how it relates to this sense of musicality in the business. I'd love to hear your thoughts if this is, a metaphor that you're kind of, we'll say, that's kind of singing in you right now, right? As you're hearing about it, like, does it feel true? Does it feel like a thing that's real? Leave your comments in the discussion below, and let me know today if you've tuned in on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube. Let me know what you think and where you're at with your business or team or organization that you're either in or leading. Where is this principle of musicality and people being in the right roles and people listening to each other and people playing the right notes? Where is this principle showing up in your organization? And what does that look like? That's what I'd like to hear from you today. Thanks everybody for tuning in and watching this on this amazing, beautiful Friday. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Please reach out again if you want an Illustrious shirt, or if you have any questions, hit me up. I will see you guys on the next live stream, which, maybe it'll be next week. But if not, make sure to connect with me on all these places: Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, so you don't miss a beat. See what I did there? All right. Thanks for watching again, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.